Okay, we are recording. Hello, welcome to episode 382 of the Self-Help Podcast with me, Ed Lamb, and my good pal, Sean Orford. How are you, Sean?
I'm good. Still got my residual little bit of a cough, but it's going, you know.
Yeah, how's it? I've been reading about
this evil potion.
The long tail of COVID. So yeah, how are you guys?
Yeah.
Is it still working its way out?
Yeah. But it appears that symptoms are going to be around for months, but also they seem to be cyclic. They're coming back, you know. So there can be days when you're feeling, yeah, come on, woo, and then there's days when the fatigue just goes. You know.
Wow. So we need to make sure
that's quite hard.
Yeah, we need to make sure we record on the days when you're feeling woo, and instead of down in the dumps.
Yeah. So how are you doing?
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks. Yeah, a couple of bits of news. So I think I mentioned last episode that William's been doing a 200-mile bike ride challenge for September. We finished it. He finished it last night. So just in the nick of time.
And I haven't donated money. I must do that.
Well, you were waiting for him to finish, I'm sure, to see if you could actually.
Oh, that was it. That's what it was. Yeah. I should make a Post-it note and stick it on my head.
I'll put the link in the notes, but yeah, he did really well. So we started on the 12th of September, and it was to ride 200 miles in September, and the hardest thing was finding the time, really. So we were only really riding at the weekend, so I wasn't really counting the ride to school, because it's only quarter of a mile. So he actually did the 200 miles over, I think, 6 days of riding. Including at the weekend, we did an 85-mile weekend. So he did 45 miles on Saturday, and then 40 miles on Sunday. In what was actually
that's amazing.
Really chilly but glorious weather. So if a little 8-year-old can do it, yeah, you can too, guys. Yeah, it was quite impressive.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, because I was watching the video of him cycling, and it was obvious that he was in the correct gear when he was cycling. And I was interested to know how you taught him to use the gears, because I see so many people who are not using their gears properly, and their legs are going around like crazy, and they're in the wrong gear. They should be in like a higher gear rather than,
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you learn? I don't know how I learned. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've advised William here and there to click up, click down. He's still not the best at being in the right gear on the approach to a hill. So he'll sometimes click down at the wrong moment, or kind of find himself on a hill. But I think he's just found it instinctively. He's quite a natural little rider. So he just knows what to do. Yeah.
On the video that you put up, he looked like his legs were working right for what he was doing. And like I say, I see so many people, they'll come past me on their bikes, but their legs are going around like crazy. And it's like, change your gear. You shouldn't be doing that with your legs.
Well, yeah, I see it out on drivers as well, revving along too high, or some people have got it and some people haven't, but who knows? Yeah. But yeah, he's done well. I'll put the link in the show notes to his little sponsorship page if anyone wants to. I think, including gift aid, he's up to about £500 raised.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Right. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and I'll make.
Yeah, you put the links up, and I've got a Post-it note, which means it'll happen.
Good lad. So
the world is full of Post-it notes.
And yeah, it's happy news. We're talking about this week. We'll come on to that in a bit. We're talking about kind of happy thoughts, staying positive, that tell me something good, that kind of thing. Because whether it's just because it's that time of year and it's the nights are drawing in, as I noticed last night when we cycled in after doing our last little stint, it was not even 7:30, and it was pretty much dark all the way there. So I don't know. Is this the time of year when bad news spreads a bit better because it's cooler and darker?
Well, we're starting to warm up for it, or cool down for it. But you get to the end of October, the clocks go back. That's the big change, because although we've only shifted an hour, it seems like the world's suddenly gone darker. The effects of that, and has an interesting effect, because you can see people starting, they click into this kind of feeling, and they get into the winter blues stuff. You know, even people that don't have vitamin D deficiencies and all that kind of stuff, the winter comes and everybody kind of goes down a bit. I think it's a natural kind of conserving your energy stuff in the cold and all that. And, you know, people going for the carbohydrates and all that kind of stuff, it's quite kind of normal. But some people say to me, I really love the winter. I love it when you go out for a walk in the cold, then you come back and there's a log fire or something like that. And they feel that the glory of that, the warmth and the kind of hygge, I suppose, bit, you know, that makes them feel good.
Yeah. What prompted this episode? Because you're doing all of the running, really, kind of suggesting at the moment. But you've been running a bit of Facebook fun and games, asking people for some good news, hey?
Well, it's Facebook certainly, but this particular thing came out of the meeting. I was at a meeting in one of the factories with a bunch of lads, all males, and I was becoming aware of the fact that everything was negative, because normally they're quite a positive bunch of guys, and they do the American, you don't have problems here, we have learning opportunities, and everyone was slipping into the negative. Everything was a problem. And there were a few conspiracy theorists in the group as well, and everything was negative. So I started to turn around and I said, look, you know, you just listened to Captain Tom on Piers Morgan, and he survived 6 years of war on the basis of let's be positive about tomorrow because it's going to be better tomorrow. And it's like, we're 6 months in and you lot are all bloody moaning now. Come on. You know, what is it that we can do to make it positive? And they're all like, ugh. So I said, okay, stop. And it's the kind of thing we've done on the course, isn't it? Okay, tell me something positive. You know, give something positive about COVID. What's good about COVID? What do you mean what's good? Well, what have you learned? What have you got out of it? A lot of them have been in lockdown. A lot of them have been in furlough, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And when they started to dig into it, they came out with a list of things, and I've included them all, but I put most of them in here. So it was things like time to think, that realization that they've been kind of running on full gas for so long that suddenly they could stop. And once they get over the shock of stopping, the idea of being able to think and look at things. And I've been running a mindfulness group in this place. We do a once a month thing. And the amount of them that have paid lip service to the idea of doing it, not unlike your good self, who suddenly had this time and they were actually doing it, and they were saying the benefits that they got from doing it, you know, which I'm sure you'd experience as well.
Indeed, yeah. Well, we'll come on to more of that stuff, but like, why? It's been a while since I worked in a proper office environment with like more than, you know, well, let's be fair, there's kind of 3 or 4 of us on a good day in my office, but you know, that kind of bigger office environment where you've got a team of 20, 30 more people that you might bump into in a day. And my memory of that world is quite positive on the whole. You know, I did enjoy it, but there is a kind of a tendency, maybe in certain places more than others, to focus and have a good whinge about the world and, you know, what's going on. Maybe I'm thinking you've got Jeremy Vine on in the background, or 5 Live or something, where everyone's phoning in, complaining about what's wrong with the world. Is it a combination of things that makes us focus on the negative?
No, I think it is the natural negative bias of the human mind, which, if you look at it in a positive psychological sense, having a negative bias keeps you safe. And that's why we have it. We're programmed to look at the negative first to make sure we're safe. Yeah, if you always just look at the positive is when things go wrong. Yeah, you have to have that balance, that equanimity between the two things. So that idea about being able to focus on something, the first thing that the majority of people focus on is the negative. So if someone says, hey, throw some stuff in a bag and we'll go to Honolulu, yeah, a few people go, yeah, that's great, chuck stuff in the bag and off they go. The next person's going to be thinking, but I need to ring up about insurance. I've got to get someone to feed the cats. I've got to get, and this whole list of things come out, which are all the negatives, which in the end can mean it's probably easier not to go, is it? Just stay where you are. And that idea of better the devil you know and all that kind of stuff is about that negative bias. Yeah. Don't challenge it. Just put up with it and stay there. Yeah. Whereas I think that COVID creates a challenge to that. Yeah.
I put the news in about Williams, how he was getting on with this challenge, or someone else did in a family WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
And they put a picture on of him on one of the rides where we did it with a friend and my father-in-law. So it's a picture of us all riding along, approaching whatever 150-ish miles for the challenge. And one of the first responses to the photo was, nice to see one of you wearing a helmet, because my father-in-law was wearing a helmet, but me and Will weren't. And I could talk for hours about why I don't wear a helmet anymore. But I won't go into that now. But it was the first thing this person obviously spotted, a kid without a helmet on. And they instantly leapt on it, and I didn't rise too much to it. I just kind of joked around. But there are people that when I put photos of William riding on Twitter or whatever, that's the first thing they see, rather than this beautiful image of an 8-year-old doing this amazing challenge. It's like, oi, they leap on it. It's fascinating.
So who was it who was wearing the helmet?
It was my father-in-law.
Right. And what's his rationale for wearing the helmet?
Well, if he falls and bumps his head, it'll protect him, and he's probably right on that front. But I had a good chat with him actually about why we don't, and I'll spare our audience the reasons. But there's actually you're actually less safe with a helmet on than without, statistically, which is hard to understand, and I won't go into it now. I promise you.
Maybe we do need to do one on that kind of safety idea.
Yeah. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. So that's my response now. I love my son too much to make him wear a helmet, because he's less safe with it on. Anyway, but people do, and whether it's talking about that or other things, will focus on that negative thing. And you used to have that thing in the past. I remember you saying that someone could say, "Oh, look at that beautiful blue sky, isn't it fantastic?" And there'll always be one person that points to the tiny little cloud off in the distance.
Yeah. I actually knew a guy that go, "I'm sure there's a cloud coming over there." He would actually do his best to find it. Yeah. And it's like the thing about, if it's a lovely sunny day, do you go out with a coat just in case? That kind of thing. And it's like, looking at things like that, you can see the logic of it, because it makes sense, keeps you safe. Yeah. But does it mean that you spend months dragging around bits of clothing that you don't need to wear because you're paranoid in case it rains, kind of thing?
Yeah. I know. I remember when we used to do the 10 steps course many years ago. I think it was at the start of the course, you would always, of each week, you would ask people to turn to the person next to them and tell them, or maybe it was we had to go around and you'd have to say it to everyone, say something positive that's happened to them that week. And I do remember initially in the first week or two, it was hard to think of something positive, because whether that's just a natural state of kind of focusing on what's gone wrong in your week, or what, is that something you still do?
Yeah. I do it a lot with clients. When a client is tipping out negativity after negativity after negativity, yes, the negativity needs to be dealt with, but also there needs to be that balance between, okay, what's good that's going on. And one of the things that can be a bit difficult to understand at the beginning, but makes sense as you work with it, is that even the negatives can be positives. Because if something bad happens to you, like maybe you fall off your bike without a helmet on, that you then think, oh, maybe I should wear one next time, whatever. Yeah. Or it could be the other way around, could it?
Yeah.
So remember, but if we're learning and growing from experience, then all things are positive.
Yeah. Well, one of the articles I linked to, lifehack.org, it's five tips to stay positive in negative situations, and one of them is, and I didn't read into it, but I just seen the headline, is to retrain your mind. So how do we start retraining our minds to see the positive in situations, even when all hell's breaking loose and, you know, it's the end of the world and everything is going wrong?
But it's habit. It's habit. And if the default habit is to observe the negative, then to train your brain to accept the positive takes a bit of work. So we know the 30 days, 90 days process in neuroplasticity. But one of the good things about the self-development work, whether it's The Secret or Bob Proctor or whatever's going on, is the idea of keeping a journal that I can write down good things at the end of the day. You know, what good happened to me today? And that's a good way of getting your mind to focus, so that before the end of your day and you go to sleep, you actually focus on the positive rather than the negative. And there are also the recordings that we do, Live in the Present, about the morning focus and the evening focus. So like morning focus, evening review, get your head on the right way before your day starts, and then sort out your day at the end of the day so that you dump the rubbish and don't carry it with you. You know, so you're trying to get a positive load to carry rather than negative.
Yeah, well, you were talking before we came on air about what a week you've had with some of the situations you've had to deal with people's lives in unbelievable amounts of turmoil and chaos. So what are your tricks for it, and what are your
my thing is meditation is a big thing for me, but also I always keep one of these with me. So I have a variety of guitars, but during the day I will play. So if I'm trying to calm myself down, it'll be something like that kind of thing. If I'm in more of a it gets more, and it can be more kind of yeah, but it's a good way for me of unwinding, so I can take a few minutes, something during the day, and just chill out. And if I'm really in the mood, and with the COVID thing, I've got the voice, so I can start singing the blues. Yeah. But it's good. I find it very therapeutic. So even if I'm working in other places, if I'm doing regular clinics somewhere, I've got a little travel guitar that I carry with me. And I'll actually use it just to chill me out, just to calm down, stop.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Some people will play music. Some people might have a little object they have in their pocket that they can rub to kind of chill themselves out. Some people might go for a bike ride or a jog. Maybe a lot of people use jogging, don't they, to kind of just zone out and refocus. So is it important to have some kind of a go-to thing for when you're in trouble?
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that for me is I always used to get it in the days when I went to the gym, is the thing about you've got the running road things and treadmills, and one person's like a gazelle and they're really loose and they're being very mindful, enjoying the experience, and the person actually is like as they're running because they're getting all that out their system. So they're doing the same thing but for different reasons. And you see that when you see people running on the road. Some people are kind of really loose and enjoying that kind of mindful experience, and other people are really kind of working off that tension that's inside them.
Yeah. So when you're going down the prom on the Wirral, are you constantly watching people on their bikes and jogging to see what state of mind they're in?
It's one of the things about what I've done throughout my life is I forever look at people and I'm reading their minds and their bodies and stuff. I just do it automatically. And one of the things about the Ayurvedic mudra work, where you do a lot of body language work, you can tell a lot about somebody before they open their mouth, which can be a bit disconcerting. I learned to keep my mouth shut and just let people go on with it, rather than say anything, But it's good.
It's also mentioned in one of the articles, another one is about finding a passion in life, and finding that thing that you're obsessed with, that kind of positive obsession that you can kind of focus on and work towards, potentially for the rest of your life, if you can find it. Do you see that with people, that you kind of, the difference between people that know why they're here and what they're working on, and those that aren't, and how their mood and their psyche is different? You reckon?
Yeah, and it's interesting that, because when people are engaged in a life purpose, it may not be to do with their work. They may do their work to fund their life purpose. But when people have that experience of being driven purposefully, and life has a meaning, when they get to points like retirement, they're able to let go of this working thing so they can devote all their time to this passion that they have. Whereas there are lots of people who don't have a passion, who are just kind of going along with life on a day-by-day basis and going to work, a bit kind of groundhog, and it becomes the habit. And then when they get to retirement, they go into crisis because they don't know who they are anymore. And that sense of having a purpose, and it's a bit like, for me, in this time in my life, the purpose that I'm involved in is about, I'm trying to write down in book form all the teachings that I've ever been given by all the teachers I've ever had, as a kind of a tribute to them in some ways, and so that knowledge doesn't get lost. But it's quite a few books. So I'm working on the third one at the moment of what will be a series, but I don't want to start putting them out until I've got at least 3 finished, so that I can start working on them, so that they start to flow out as a series. But that would be like a paper book, an audio, and an ebook kind of thing, for each one. So it will be next year before they start to come out. But that is kind of passion for me at the moment. So I might, even though I'm not maybe starting to see someone till 9 or 10 in the morning, I'll be at the computer by like 6:30 and be working on scripts and stuff,
Nice. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a tendency when we talk about finding your passion, I think people might be out there listening and worrying that they haven't found their passion yet, or it doesn't have to be anything kind of too grandiose, does it, or huge. It could just be as simple as,
I know people whose passion is wool, and their passion is getting raw wool and carding it and washing it and dyeing it, and then spinning it. That's the word, spinning, and then actually making things with it. Now, it could be that your passion is making particular kinds of Christmas cards or something. It doesn't matter what it is. It's having that sense of engagement and excitement about it, and it is a case of some people get absolutely ecstatic about stamp collecting. Don't get that myself, but if it floats your boat, love it, do it. It's great.
Yep. Train
as long
spotting.
as it doesn't damage other people or scare the horses, then it's fine.
I mean, train spotting is, again, apparently even bus spotting is a thing. Like, there's people that go to bus stations and watch buses come and go, like the 464 to Birkenhead and all that kind of thing. And yeah, but
do the buses actually have numbers like trains?
Well, it will do in terms of the 487 to Neston, or the
no trains actually had a code number on the side, didn't they? So people would collect the train codes. Train spotters.
I'm not sure about that. Probably they'll have some kind of registration, extra kind of reg mark in a way. Yeah, who knows? But whatever it is, if it's not, like you say, as long as it's not damaging someone else, causing them harm, go for it. You don't have to be Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos kind of taking over the world. It can be something as easy as obsessing over wool.
Yeah, I knew a guy once who collected chopsticks, and had chopsticks from all over the world, made of all different kinds of things, and very often they had stories behind them, and some of them were kind of antique chopsticks and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
nice.
But it's whatever you go for. My sister had rabbits. She collected rabbits, or their hairs. They were either rabbits or hares, but her house was full of these kind of statues and models and books and things about these long-eared toothy things.
Yeah, I mean, love it. All right. Have you got a
So
resource of the week?
have you got one? Have you got one?
A passion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Bike.
I'm on this environmental journey. Yeah, I mean, there's bikes. There's one at my window actually now. Can you see, if you're watching on YouTube?
All right, yeah,
There's
yeah. I got it. Yeah.
My gorgeous gravel bike. But yeah, it's about telling that story now about how it's about more than just the bike. You know, it's about what the bike can do for your community and yourself, everyone around you. So that environmental story that's going to play out in the next 10, 15 years that's my passion now. And yeah, it's cool. Excited.
What about the psychology bit?
What do you mean?
What about the psychology? Have you looked at that? The psychology of bike ride and the benefits?
Big time. Yeah, and I think about that all the time. Not just, I mean, the psychology of environmentalism, you know, it's all about psychology from what I think. You know, we can talk about zero carbon and all that stuff, and we can talk about but it's hard changing minds. You know, it's hard getting people to change their habits from hopping in a car every morning or to do every single journey that they do, to swapping it for a bike or for a bus pass or for a train, train ticket. It's all about psychology. Even, you know, switching, you're Mr. Plastic Free now, or you're getting there you're doing much better than me.
Yeah.
It's dead easy for someone to say they hate plastic, but for actually to rid it from your life is another thing entirely, isn't it?
It's actually quite difficult, because everything that you get comes with a plastic wrapped around it, you know. And have you seen the new packing that comes in some of the stuff you get from like online? It comes in a box, and it's got like stuff that looks like what's-its, that like foamy stuff in there, but they're actually made out of starch.
Right.
And if you put them in water, they dissolve. They dissolve back into starch, and you can flush them, which is very different to having polystyrene plastic. Have you seen it?
I don't think I've
really
seen that one.
idea.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, like it.
Yeah.
Interesting time, eh? Wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the psychology of environmental work is that's what fascinates me most about it already. Changing minds and trying to change habits. It's hard work, but yeah, we've got to do it, haven't we?
Yeah. So if you were down and you had one of those days when you were feeling, what would you do to lift your mood up? What would be your strategy?
Oh, flipping heck, good question. What does Ed do when he's feeling down? Which does happen every now and again. I'm not. Some people might think I'm going to say go for a bike ride, but I'm not like a recreational cyclist, really. I don't just get on my bike just for fun. So I struggle to do that when I need to. I probably should. For me, it's probably films, music, bit of family time, bit of food. Just Friday nights with my kids and my wife, with a movie on and like a takeaway or some really food that I shouldn't be eating, pizza, whatever. That's what I do, man. So yeah, I'm quite lucky. I get a lot of physical exercise. Yeah. Anyway, so I just chill out and have a glass of wine, maybe even alcohol-free glass of wine. Have you got your bottle there, Sean? Oh, he's paused.
Red variety.
There it is.
Alcohol-free.
This is alcohol-free red wine.
The white variety. Yeah, and this is the beer.
So, Blue. Okay, I've tried that. Yeah, it's all right, isn't it?
I think the thing that's good about those kinds of things is that if you're with a group of people, and they're all drinking wine, say red wine, and you're on the lime and soda because you're not drinking, everybody looks at you like you're mad and you stick out like a sore thumb. Whereas if you've got a glass of wine as well, it just happens to be non-alcoholic, people don't notice.
Yeah.
You know, which is good. That's good. Yeah.
And can you serve it to people and they won't notice that it's alcohol-free?
No, but you can, because it tastes slightly different. It's obviously you don't have the alcohol hit on your tongue, but it also is fruitier It's where there's a sharper taste in wine. You know,
Right.
there's things like gin. There's a seedlip gin, which is alcohol free, which tastes exactly like gin. That's quite weird.
Nice. What's your have you got a resource of the week, Sean, or anything else you want to mention?
Yeah. What I've done on the blog, I've gone through a lot of the things that the guys I was working with went through, and the thing that we kind of were getting to at the end was the idea of the affirmations that we're making with our mind, what we're doing. So I've stuck an app up here which is called Thinking Up, which is a positive affirmation app, you know. And it's like, if we become what we ruminate on in our heads, if we keep ruminating on the negative, then that's all we get, that's all we see, you know. So my thing about going to the mirror, and I do it, I look myself in the eyes and I go, who loves you, baby? Yeah, and I get that positive going from the very first time I look in the mirror in the morning. I do it as a habit, you know, and very often it makes me laugh. I laugh at myself in the mirror. But it's that sense of I refuse to get into the negative thought processes. You know, I would do everything I can to avoid it because I don't want to do it. I spent a lot of my life playing the negative game, and I don't want to do that. I want to feel positive. So when the negative voice in my head comes up, I would literally put it to one side and replace it with a positive.
Nice.
You know, I won't allow the negative to come in. You know.
All right.
So,
very
and
impressive.
I'm quite strict in my mind about that.
Very impressive. Cool. All right. Well, mine's I'm going to launch another podcast. Don't you know it? For Rethink, for my environmental company. So me and Tanya, who's my colleague, we sat down at Claremont Farm last week and slapped a microphone down. In fact, your microphone, which I've still got hold of actually, which is coming in handy at the moment. And we recorded a little pilot episode. Yeah. I've actually bought a couple of extra covers for it, like a wind cover, because we did one. We tried once outside, but there was too much buffeting around. So I've bought some a couple of bit extras for it. But yeah, Rethink Now podcast, which is the pilot is just Tanya and I really introducing ourselves and giving a bit of an overview of what we want and what's to come. So yeah, more podcasting from Ed. So I'll share the link in there and have a listen if you can. And feedback gratefully received. And maybe we'll get you on one day, Sean, because the psychology of changing minds, and not just changing minds, but preparing people for the changes that are coming, whether we want them or not, are important. So we'll get you on, eh?
Yeah, and that is a very interesting thing that we have to come to terms with. Prior to in between the wars, particularly, the world was very static. You know, it's like you go through periods of time in history where the interest rate is always the same, where the blacksmith's son becomes the blacksmith, and it goes on through generations. We're at a point in history, both social and technological, where development is exponential. It's going up like crazy. And that means that the levels of change that people are having to deal with is going to get greater and greater and greater. And that means for the older people, it's more and more difficult. I've got lots of problems at the moment because everything's online, trying to get people that are in their 80s or even in their 90s to use technology so you can talk to them. And I had one lady who needed to talk to a consultant in Manchester from here. And I had to actually go round and program her iPad that she had, amazingly, because her daughter had given it to her, so that she could actually talk to the doctor on the iPad, you know, which she's done, which is good in the 90s, you know, great.
Brilliant. Yeah, brave new world, hey? So I'll get you on at some point to talk about the psychology of changing minds and resilience and all that kind of stuff, because we got some big changes going, man. And I'll link to that in the show notes. But this podcast will continue, and we'll be back next week to talk about more exciting things, won't we, Sean?
Yeah. It'll be tell me a joke next week.
Yeah. I'll think of some. All right, you have a good week, Sean. I'll see you on the other side.
You take care. See ya.
See you later, everyone. Bye.